Ladies and gentlemen, here we go once again, coming at you, show 4 of 6 in our preseason prognostication series. That title adeptly thought up by the great Dan Strafford, who came up with it. That's a lot of syllables. I personally prefer prestidigitation, but that's a whole separate thing. I'm going to talk about the Atlantic Division today, which I suppose somewhat ironically contains 3 of the best 5 teams in the Eastern Conference, I feel safe in saying, but probably none of the top 5 teams in the Eastern Conference I would want to target to use players from in DFS. Now, salary cap DFS, we're always going to have some interest in players just based on their price. Guys will be underpriced, but as I've said, basically at the beginning of every show, preseason DFS an entirely different quandary than regular season DFS because, again, basketball is extremely predictable. Lots of little scoring opportunities. People tend to have, dozens and up to like 100 opportunities to score some points in a game. And so it's really easy to predict who's going to do what by keeping an eye on minutes. Very narrow range of what's going to happen between guys. So in the regular season, where this information is widely reported and gauged and can be easily reacted to in a hurry, you have to find other ways to win. But in the preseason, it's basically easy mode. It's like playing baseball against a team that doesn't know which way they're supposed to face when they stand at the plate. You can just, or doesn't realize that they have to throw the ball to first place. So you can just bunt it, put the ball in play, and run to first place safely every time. You don't need to get overly complicated here. And that's because it takes a fair amount of research to know what's going to be done. You have to look at what coaches have done in previous years. You have to read a lot. You got to follow Twitter a lot. And even when this information is contained, it's not really condensed and it's not really spread out. So just most players don't have it. They're just sort of running it off the seat of their ass. Or even if they know it, they only know it for half the teams because there really isn't a central hub for preseason NBA DFS, present company accepted. And it's shown the last couple of years. You have really, really stupid profit margins for people. So, there's Celia. Dweck can't be your real last name, but anyhow, yeah. So we're gonna get going. We're gonna talk about the Atlantic Division tonight. Although, as just alluded to in our combined chat here, the showdown slate for Friday is up. So there are real preseason NBA. There is a slate up on DraftKings that I haven't looked at FanDuel yet, though I expect something. But the one game Friday night, 7:30 Eastern tip. Celtics at Charlotte, I believe it is, game has been posted. And we'll look at that for a couple minutes at the end of the show because we are going to talk about the Celtics here during this show. So we'll talk about that showdown slate. $75,000 tourney, which is nice. It's around where we were at the beginning of Summer League, and I think if things fill as well as I hope them to, and as we get into larger slates, there are preseason. At least a 10-game slate, and there may even be bigger than that on a couple days. But it really takes a while to ramp up. A couple of the teams we're going to talk about today don't have a game until like next Wednesday. There are teams that don't play until a week from tonight. So it's like 1 game the first day, 2 the second, 4 on Sunday, maybe 3 on Sunday, including a rematch of this game. I think this is Boston and Charlotte in Charlotte, and I believe on Sunday they rematch already in Boston. So we'll have some information to work on that there. So let's go ahead. That's who said that comment? Oh, Ennis Cantor. Okay, someone posted in the chat there that when they think about the preseason, their nipples get hard. Ennis Cantor posted that about something recently, and that's very topical because we'll talk about the Knicks too. Because the Atlantic Division has probably the best 3 teams in the Eastern Conference, and then 2 teams from the best city in the world, who aren't right now very good at basketball, but hey, Madison Square Garden and Barclays Center, and there's good reason to go to those games too. So let's get started. We'll go into the Philadelphia 76ers. Last year's record, 52-30. They beat the Heat pretty convincingly in 5 games in the first round of the playoffs. Lost to the Celtics in 5 in the second round. And again, there's people who, just to start with sort of an overall conversation here, talking about how they think this team is going to win the East. I don't know. They lost to the Celtics in 5, right? And pretty convincingly in 2 of those games. A couple of the other ones were close. Like some of the 3 of those games were very close. But the Celtics added basically Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward, and the 76ers sadly didn't really add anyone. Wilson Chandler was the best name they picked up, and he's a perfectly adequate hand. But They lost Marco Bellinelli. They lost Ersan Ilyasova, both of whom played really big roles towards the end of the year there when that Philly team was super hot. So, if you're a Philly fan, I obviously still love Dario, still love Ben Simmons, still love Joel Embiid. I really like this team, but they, at best, broke even in the regular season, and several other teams improved a lot over the summer. You could even make a reasonable argument that they regressed a little bit. So I would be unhappy with the summer if I was the 76ers. But again, long year ahead. They're certainly, again, I think they're the third best team in the conference. I feel pretty good about now. I feel pretty strong about the 1, 2, 3. I'm pretty sure it's the Celtics, then the Raptors, then the 76ers. Pretty convincingly, I feel about those rankings. But I reformatted my notes here for the person who said, you have to say who stayed. I was mentioning who left and who came in, and they were like, I don't remember who's there. So we're going into that from now on, so I copied this over. Jared Bayless is still there. I guess we're going to do this alphabetically, mostly. But Jared Bayless is still there, but he's not going to play. He's going to get stretched or bought out or what have you, or turn into a trade chip. But I don't expect him to actually see the court for this team this year. There's not really any room for him anyway. Bobko, Robert Covington's still there. Joel Embiid, of course, is still there. Markelle Fultz with his repaired shot, we'll say, is still there. Amir Johnson is there. Furkan Korkmaz and his explosive summer league game followed by 8 fantasy points is still there. Dario Saric is still there. Ben Simmons is still there. And TJ McConnell is still in town. They added Jonah Bolden through the draft. Anthony Brown will be on the camp deal. Wilson Chandler, we alluded to, coming over from Denver. Shake Milton. Mike Muscala in from Atlanta. Emeka Okafor of recent, only 5-6 days ago, cut by the Pelicans and they picked him up. Landry Shamet and Zaire Smith, who they got in the trade with the Suns on draft day with the 16th overall pick. Departures, Justin Anderson is gone, boo-hoo, no big deal. Rashawn Holmes is gone, also not really a big deal. He's over in Phoenix now. Ersan Ilyasova back to Milwaukee, and that's a little bit sad. Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot is with the Thunder, and Marco Bellinelli returns to the Spurs. A couple guys going home there. The coach is Brett Brown. This is his 6th year in Philly. One of the few coaches who got time to make it out of a full rebuild. I believe the first 3 years in Philadelphia, they did not win 20 games, which I don't know if that's been done in the history of the NBA otherwise. There was the 10-win year. I believe it was 10 and 72 in there. But they have like 10, 18, and 19 wins in those first 3 years in some order. And then pulled it up to 30 or something. And again, last year, 52, which is pretty good. Vegas projects them to pick up a game or two. That's a little bit surprising for me. The East is nominally easier. If you forced me to bet that, I would take a game under that. The most recent line I saw was like 54 wins. I'm thinking 52 or 53 is still about the right number. So your expected starters should look very familiar. It's a lot of what you saw last year. Simmons, Redick, Covington, Saric, and Embiid. Redick re-upped with the team, which is nice to see. And he's fascinating if you're at all interested in salary caps and the way contracts work and the way the cap fluctuates year to year. Watching Redick basically sign the same deal with the same team 2 years in a row and get like 40 cents on the dollar versus the year before. It was really interesting to see how the markets move and how little this year free agents in general and centers specifically. It's an interesting study if you look into that. Notable injuries, Zaire Smith, who we just spoke about a second ago, is going to be out a few months. He has a Jones fracture in his foot, or I think he's now recovering from surgery to repair the Jones fracture in his foot. The 76ers like him quite a bit, but he wasn't going to play appreciably this year anyway, outside of blowouts and stuff, so not a big deal. They will let him get healthy. Maybe you'll see him in March and April for a little bit. Yeah, so again, they were linked with Paul George and Kawhi and LeBron, and I was a little surprised nobody made that move. Kawhi obviously didn't have a ton of say in the matter, and Paul George, I've already explained how odd I found his decision to stay in OKC, but it's what he wanted, so, God bless him. And LeBron, I think LeBron would rather have had Philadelphia's roster than LA's roster when he made the move he did, so I think they lost to geography there. But yeah, the biggest name they picked up was Wilson Chandler. I will say that, again, this is, we'll be talking more about this as the slates come up, but the stated purpose of the show, and people have complained about the length, I was hoping to keep them under an hour. We have 3 so far, and they're all like 1:15 to 1:30, is to talk about the preseason. So Philadelphia is not a team that it's worth spending a ton of time on because they play one game on this side of the planet. Again, last year the Warriors and the Timberwolves made the trip to China. This year it is the 76ers and the Mavs. I believe the Mavs play their American game, if you will, on the flip side. They do it when they get back. And I'm fairly certain they do. The 76ers play at home before going out on the road. So the 76ers, I think this coming Monday or Tuesday, have one game. I think they host the Magic. Someone can look that up. And we'll talk about them a little more on that night. But, gonna carry it a little short for right now. Looking at last year's preseason, like most of the teams in this division, was not a really DFS-friendly one put forward by the 76ers. They had 5 preseason games. Markelle Fultz only played in 2 of them. But he played 23.5 minutes per game in those 2 games, and that was good for the most minutes per game on the entire team. And that's not good. Simmons, as a rookie, was second at 22.8, 21.7 for Redick, 21.6 for Covington, 21.3 for Saric. That is some ugly shit. They played all 20 guys on their training camp roster. That's a lot of yuck. The year previous, they only played 17 guys. Their lead minutes player was 23.5 minutes, which was, I could give you a few guesses at this before you got, it was Timothy John McConnell led the way. Second and third, also getting over 23 minutes a game, were Jeremy Grant and Hollis Thompson. So yeah, there's nothing really to get excited about here. Last year was basically, kind of shit top to bottom, and the year before that they were running out the kids a lot, and by a lot I mean 23 minutes a game, but that's not an no. So of course, depending on what prices guys are, sure, there's times if he's close to the minimum, I'll be interested in JJ Redick at 22 minutes of him or whatever I expect, or 19 minutes of Joel Embiid. Like, there's a price for everything. But assuming the prices are based mostly on what they did last regular season, which tends to be the case, pretty unlikely we're going to want a lot of the 76ers on the one game they're available on the slate. And other people probably will. And so you'll get a lot of people who are paying up for Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, because, good example, people won't pay attention. They're going to play 18 minutes in that game. Maybe. Now, there's a chance, and again, we're following everything. We're tracking everything. I got literally somewhere over 300 Google alerts set up. Maybe Brett Brown says, yeah, we only have 3 games this preseason and only one that isn't this exhibition Barnum and Bailey shit, so we're going to play that game like it's a real regular season game. Oh, well, in that case, we'll obviously have some significant interest. 10-1 Monday is the 76ers at home versus the Magic. Yeah, okay, so that's coming Monday. There we go. Shout out to all my South Jersey friends who say they're from Philadelphia. I am not fooled. So we'll leave it there on the 76ers for now, but fire up some questions if anyone has them. We can talk about the rotation. But again, going to be pretty similar to last year. So let's move on to one of the less star-spangled teams here, the Brooklyn Nets. 28-54 last year. Again, I feel like there's money to be made betting the over-unders on these teams just because nobody ends up in the 30s. Like, everyone either gets way the hell over or under. There was one team in the East at all in the 30s. There's one team between 29 and 42 wins. And in the West, there were maybe 2 teams in the 30s. The Mavs. I think I have it backwards. Maybe the Mavs were the only team in the West. But basically, you get towards late February, and everyone's either winning every game because they're playing against teams that are losing every game on purpose, or they're losing every game on purpose, and you get these widely variegated over-unders. So I feel like there's some of those numbers. Maybe I'll do a different show and take a look at some of the preseason bets. But I feel like some of these are off. Like, I would take that under on the 76ers. And again, I like them as a team, but it doesn't make sense that they would improve a few games this year. Obviously you have young players who are amazing who could be better. Like, Joel Embiid could take a leap forward. He's already amazing, but he could be more amazing. Ben Simmons was the Rookie of the Year. Still a kid. He's still a baby. He could obviously get a lot better, but more inclined to think they stagnate a touch. The Raptors, for example, I think maul their over-under. They barely improved at all, and I think they, got Kawhi Leonard and got Danny Green, and defensively can be pretty fearsome, but you love Jared Allen, but his defense is so suspect. His defense is suspect in some ways. He does some interesting rim protection things. He's actually, for fantasy purposes, an elite blocker. Gets a lot of blocked shots. So if you're saying from a DFS standpoint, I would disagree. He's going to contribute a lot as far as stats go on that side of the ball. As a basketball player, he got much better as the year went on. Again, we're segueing into talking about the Brooklyn Nets. As that year continued, he got much better on both ends of the court. Handling the pick and rolls went from abysmal to below average, but there was marked improvement just watching him. And again, he didn't get to play a lot. He played 70 games or something, but he averaged only 20 minutes a game. And he's definitely, now he's not going to be someone to catch people by surprise with, because the buzz is real. A lot of people are talking about him. I think Mitchell Robinson on the other New York team is probably the center who I'm a little more excited for making some money with in the preseason if I was you. But, you know, Jared Allen is going to go from 20 minutes a game to 29 minutes a game or something like that. That number's going to come way up. So in terms of playing centers versus him, yeah, that's definitely something we think about. This team is going to be pretty bad defensively. There's a couple decent defensive hands on the Nets, but a lot of these guys are liabilities on that end of the court. So carryovers for this team, the aforementioned Jared Allen, who conveniently comes in first alphabetically, first in your hearts. DeMarre Carroll, Alan Crabb, Spencer Dinwiddie, Joe Harris, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, Karis LeVert, and D'Angelo Russell. New guys to the team, Ed Davis in from Portland, which is a pretty good get. I can definitely teach a couple things to Jared Allen and a couple other guys. Jarrett Dudley there for moral support. Kenneth Farid, someone should have told him that weed, not yet legal in New Jersey, brought it in with him from Denver and picked up an arrest over the summer. Trevion Graham in from Charlotte. Their two draft picks were Rodions Kurucs and Zanan Musa. Shabazz Napier in from Portland, and Alan Williams in from Phoenix. Big sauce. Not going to get a lot of playing time. Probably fourth on the center depth chart, even behind Farid, assuming he's not suspended by the league for something, but it's just fun to say big sauce once in a while. They lost Quincy Acey, Dante Cunningham, we mentioned in our Spurs preview. We'll pick up a little time there. Jeremy Lin went to Hotlanta. Timofey Mozgov went to Orlando, where he might actually play. Weirdness. Jahlil Okafor continuing his tour, going to the Pelicans. It's sort of like Mecca. Once in a while, all the Okafors have to make a pilgrimage there. Nick Stauskas off to Portland. Isaiah Whitehead, I believe, off to his couch. Coach tenure. This is Kenny Atkinson's third year. He's not someone we generally like for DFS. He makes frequent lineup changes. Sometimes very, very hard to understand lineup changes. Sometimes it's a back-to-back and he just overreacts like the guys all ran a marathon. Sometimes it's a matchup. Sometimes he just really F's with guys' minutes. He's not like Terry Stotts or even Alvin Gentry or a couple of the other guys where at least I got the idea and they made some smart changes. He was just sort of rotating shit up on the fly. I don't think he's Isaiah Whitehead's in Turkey now. Yeah, I didn't know that one. I know he just not Cabolco, but Lucas Noguera I was just reading is in Spain, I think. But there's Isaiah Whitehead if you were worried. So yeah, so your expected starters for this team once the regular season roll around, you're definitely going to start D'Angelo Russell, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, and Jared Allen. Those guys will start 99%. The other three spots are going to be 2 out of the 3 of Alan Crabb, Karis LeVert, and DeMarre Carroll. LeVert and Jared Allen are the guys I mean, there's at the prices, there's a couple guys on this team we're definitely going to have some interest in. LeVert is getting a lot of pub. He's the other guy other than Jared Allen who's getting all the preseason love. If you're seeing it anywhere, you would see he's mentioned frequently. He's getting all the looks great, looks stronger. Everyone on the team is talking about how great he looks. And again, another player who improved as the year went on last year and had some really useful DFS lines. I think he does get there. I think LeVert will get the start. I think Crabb is better off the bench. So I'm going to go with LeVert and Carroll filling those last 2 spots. I'm gonna, and again, I wish someone was writing all this down for me, so in a month you could laugh at me. But I think it's D'Angelo Russell, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, Jared Allen, LeVert, and Carroll. I'll guess would be your opening day starting 5. Really only 2 injuries to deal with right now. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson strained an abductor pretty badly playing in China at Jeremy Lin's charity event. No good deed going unpunished. But that was on August 3rd or 4th. It was early in August he suffered that injury. He practiced today. They took it a little easy on him. He did half a practice. I think the Nets do open their preseason in a week. I think it's a week from today. So I think he plays in that game. I'd say 80-20. Maybe they'll take it a little easy on him because of that. Maybe there'll be some sort of minutes limitation because of that. Probably not, because again, they don't really like to give anyone minutes, which is sort of a trend here. Dinwiddie, Russell, Carroll, RHJ, Allen. Okay, so we agreed on Russell, RHJ, Allen. You're saying Carroll and Dinwiddie. I don't think Dinwiddie gets the start. Dinwiddie was really good last year, but I think they're going to buy into Russell. His minutes are going to come up because of his injuries and returning from them and sharing the time with Dinwiddie. He only played like 25 minutes a game last year. I think they're trying to develop, and he's more the future. So I don't think Dinwiddie starts, but it's not impossible. But I would think they would start LeVert over Dinwiddie. But I don't think your idea of Dinwiddie being in the starting lineup is impossible. But I don't think that's what will happen necessarily. And the only other guy is the aforementioned Zanin Musa, who had an ankle tweak. Not a long-term issue. Maybe, again, pretty similar in duration. Might miss some time in the first role, but his role was to be uncertain anyway. He's not going to get serious time during the regular season. Preseason, he might have gotten 15 minutes a game. So the Nets, have been adamant about not tanking this year. They don't talk about it internally. They want to build a winning culture. And so there's hope that this team starts to give guys more minutes in both the regular season and the preseason. They have a fairly light preseason schedule. They only have those 4 games. So some hope they rely on these guys more. In the regular season last year, no one on the team got to 30 minutes. And I'm thinking a couple guys make it there this year. And again, Jared Allen was down at 20 minutes. So, again, they're a little below average as far as minutes. They're not good. They're below average. So, last year you had Jeremy Lin leading the way with 24.4, D'Angelo at 23.8, DeMarre Carroll at 23, and then Dinwiddie and LeVert both played 20 point something. That's not exciting. And that was only 4 games too. So my optimism is somewhat muted. The year previous was basically the same. They had 6 games that preseason. Again, they cut down the preseason a bit last year. For those of you who aren't aware, when we're talking about apples to apples, looking at years to years, I haven't mentioned this previously, they radically reduced the number of preseason games last year. If you look 3 years ago, you had teams with 6, 7 preseason games. They have started running fewer games in the preseason in order to lengthen out the regular season by a week or 2, which means that there's very few 4 and 5s and fewer back-to-backs for every team during the year, which I think is good for everyone, except for us, because that's less time to just get free money every year. So I guess I'm kind of upset about that, but for the rest of the year, it is going to make the product a lot better. If we look at preseason the year before, 6 games that year, Jeremy Lin again led. That time he had 23 minutes per game. No one else even got to 22. So, it's possible they tighten that up this year. Certainly going to be listening to use. I think you're going to get like 25 out of D'Angelo and probably like 23 or less for everyone. But some of these guys are going to be priced well. And, there's a couple nice fantasy guys there. They have some good matchups. I think they play the Knicks twice. So, if you told me I could only take one team in the Atlantic Division to play guys out of in the preseason, it might be the Nets, which is a little bit scary. Doc on Big Country coming out soon. A documentary on Big Country? The Grizzlies guy? Doc on Big Country coming out soon. Either you're talking about like a gay video with Doc Rivers in Big Country, or you're talking about, I can't remember his real name. Big Country was a guy who played for the Vancouver Grizzlies around the turn of the century for 5 or 6 years. Came out of, I don't know, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, some farming type state, and played in Canada for 5 years. I can't even, yes, Grizzlies player. Bryant Reeves, there it is. Okay, sorry, I apologize. That's even taken me back. He's like year 2000. Like he was roughly so he'd probably be about my age, because was roughly a contemporary of Vince Carter. When Vince Carter was crushing it for the Raptors, he was the big pickup for the Grizzlies, for the other Canadian team, and was not quite so good. But big, goofy white guy, so feeling him right here. Big Country. Oklahoma State? See, okay, I remember this, but I haven't even... Bryant Reeves, I couldn't have gotten that if my life depended on it. I wouldn't have come up with Bryant Reeves, but... okay, I'll be interested in seeing that documentary. Sorry for that little segue there. Talk about making the show shorter, and there we are spending a full 60 seconds on Bryant Reeves. We'll move on, but again, we'll be keeping an eye on those Nets. But again, yeah, Kenny, during the regular season, really not nice with minutes. Again, no one on the team got to 30 last year. Regular season, similarly, not friendly for us. And again, you kind of like that. Like, there's 5 or 6 coaches I'm counting on to give me 28 minutes out of a few guys. That's fine. We'll take that. And everyone else is going to take guys who play 22 minutes because they don't do the research. And, you know, our guys all play, you know, 30% more. That's money. That's fine. If no teams did it, yeah, that would be a problem. But yeah, basically every day there's a couple teams you can target instead of a couple other teams. And it's, you know, 5 minutes doesn't sound like a lot. But, you know, 25 minutes instead of 20 minutes, it's a full 25% extra production. So, you know, during the regular season, it's tough to take, you know, do I want Durant or do I want LeBron? But if LeBron's going to play 25 and Durant's going to play 20, I'm just going to take LeBron. And he's going to get there almost every time. Let's move on and talk about the other stellar team in New York, the Knickerbockers, the New York Knicks. James Dolan's own. Last year's record, 29-53. This year's record, 29-53. So I think they should be pretty happy because they say that there's nothing more important in professional sports than consistency. Carryovers from last year, and just there's some real studs right here at the beginning. We got Ron Baker, he'll be back. That feels good. Damian Dotson, good to know he'll be suiting him up again. Lance Thomas, you know, the All-Stars. Anyway, Tim Hardaway Jr., Enes Kanter, Luke Cornett, Courtney Lee, Emmanuel Mudiay, Joakim Noah, although he's not going to play a minute for the Knicks this year. I don't know if he's, again, getting stretched or traded or waived or whatever the hell, but he'll probably be backing up Karl Anthony Towns within a week or two. Frank Ntilikina will be back. Kristaps Porzingis won't be back for a while because he blowed up his ankle. And Trey Burke, who made me look bad in DFS for about a week last year. Where's about a week going, look, I've seen Trey Burke play basketball for 5 years. Trey Burke is not this good. Trey Burke is not going to score 30 points again tonight. He's not going to shoot 75% from the field and 60% from 3. And I gave that speech seemingly every day for about a week. Trey Burke wasn't listening to it. New additions, Kadeem Allen in from Boston, who I think, was he the one who had a spate of legal trouble? No, it was Jabari Bird. Importantly, Mario Hezonja in from Orlando is actually going to have a decent role with this team, especially while the aforementioned Kristaps is out. Remember when Derrick Rose was on the Knicks? Good times. Kevin Knox, Summer League All-Star, the Rook, getting in there. Mitchell Robinson, someone I'm going to have a lot of interest in, also Summer League All-Star. Alonzo Trier, who we also liked in Summer League, although I don't think we're going to see much of him in this format. And Noah Vonleh coming from Chicago, from Portland. He's continuing to work his way east. At this rate, he'll be playing for Ireland next year. Departures, Michael Beasley has gone to join the glorious Los Angeles Lakers, and the collection of characters they're putting together there really wouldn't have been complete without Michael Beasley. Jarrett Jack is going to be competing for the backup job in New Orleans. Kyle O'Quinn is going to take Al Jefferson's minutes in Indiana, and Troy Williams was trying to get on the Pellies. I think he's still trying to get on the Pellies. Their new coach, shit, I'm not wearing my Take That for Data shirt. Shout out to Rinpack, who purchased me a Take That for Data shirt. David Fizdale will be starting his 3rd year in the NBA, though he's only coached like 1 1/5 years. He got the first year with the Grizz, and then Marcus All didn't like him, and the Grizzlies front office kicked him right in the Bickerstaff. But this is the first of his 4-year deal with the Knickerbockers. Yes, Jarrett Jack is still in the league. He's not the worst. Like, if you write the list of guys, like, how is he still in the league, who actually, like, play minutes, like, you know what I'm saying, like, get 1,000 minutes a year, which, you know, 12 minutes a game or whatever that breaks down to, Jarrett Jack would be on that list. I wouldn't be the bottom. There's a couple guys who are worse than Jarrett Jack who still play. I'm just like, why is this guy on a basketball team? Jarrett Jack. Howell Neto gets on that list. I think he's lower than Jarrett Jack. It's a fun list, though. We should do that at some point, too. Expected starters. Who the fuck knows? According to Coach Fizzy Lifting Drink there, all positions are up for grab as far as who will be the starter in the lineup. I am going to throw out at you Trey Burke, Tim Hardaway Jr., Mario Hezonja, Kevin Knox, and Enes Kanter. Well, that's kind of out of order. I think Hezonja will be the nominal 4 there with Knox. At the 3, come back to who's going to play what exactly where. Talk about injuries for a second. Kristaps is going to be out for quite some time. This team isn't going to win anything this year. I expect them to be super, super cautious. You will not see him before January. you know, that's he tore an ACL. That's tends to be a 12-month injury. Did that in, I believe, last January. But I expect them to take it even a little slower with him. There's a non-zero chance he does not play. I don't think that's likely. But, you know, if he's not ready to come back till February 15th and the team is, you know, I don't know, February 15th, the team is 16-40, I think they're like, you know what? Just take a while. Like, if his recovery doesn't progress perfectly, sometimes you get some lingering swelling. Maybe he's got an edema. Who the fuck knows? So, non-zero chance you never see Kristaps. So don't draft him. The Knicks just love Thomas for some reason. They do love Lance Thomas. I am hoping that that is a Jeff Hornacek loves Lance Thomas and not a the Knicks love Lance Thomas, and he is appropriately prioritized behind Knox and Hazonia. Yeah, but Kristaps being out, again, the nice thing here is that will boost usage and minutes for a number of guys here. Most obviously for Hardaway, who should be the number one scoring weapon on this team here. I like Hazonia. I think he does end up starting for this team. This is a team where he's going to actually have a decent role here. You're going to get some decent fantasy lines out of Hazonia and Cantor and Tim Hardaway Jr., you know, and even Trey Burke on certain days. Now, the point guard battle is one of the more interesting ones. You have Trey Burke, who is, you know, several years older and not terribly good at basketball, but at least fairly gifted as a offensive player and a one-on-one breaking down player. And then you have Frank Ntilikina, who I saw a nickname the other day of the Franchise, which I love. I hadn't heard that one. Who is 19 or 20 and is already an incredibly good defensive player. And there's, you know, Fizdale has talked about, you know, the defense and so, you know, maybe Fizzy lets Frank get in there and start. I don't think that'll happen, but you know, you can take a couple of others' comments and break it down. He said he doesn't want to go small at the 3 anymore. Last time they ran a few small networks where small lineups with Trey Burke next to Frank Ntilikina next to Courtney Lee, for example, at the 1, 2, 3, or with Hardaway in there. He said he really doesn't want to do that as much anymore, so you're going to get Hazonia Knox, I think, starting at the 3 and the 4. But for that reason, I think that you're not going to get any chance of a Burke-Ntilikina starting lineup. But Ntilikina is an excellent defender. Burke is a much better offensive player. It's going to be interesting to see how that breaks down. Mitchell Robinson, who I mentioned previously, not quite getting the pub of Jared Allen, but he was really, really good in Summer League. He's a baby. He's 19. I think he starts the year as the backup center. And it's going to be really interesting in DFS if it's not priced well. And again, we can get some insight on that by looking at the Celtics and the Hornets later. Bobcats, Charlotte. So yeah, I'll stick with that for Burke, Hardaway, Hazonia, Knox, and Cantor to start. You're going to get Ntilikina, Lee, Thomas, probably Noah Vonleh, and Mitchell Robinson being the key backups. Those 10 guys, I think, are the guys who are seeing the court basically every day. I'd like to see Trier get some time, but I think it's next year, or unless there's some injuries. Or also, Courtney Lee could get traded. His contract puts him in a prime place to be traded during the year. If that happened, then I could certainly see Trier moving into the starting lineup, or moving with the team. He's not going to start, but he would get some reserve minutes there. $4,000, 8 blocks, 6 steals. Mitchell Robinson nights, yeah, with possibly a double-double. So notes. Obviously, we could talk about the Knicks preseason last year, but I consider that irrelevant. But that wasn't pretty either. If we look at the Grizzlies preseason last year, because again, Fizdale was the coach there, they had 5 preseason games. Marc Gasol played 3 of them. He played 22.9 minutes per game, and that was the most minutes per game of anyone on that team in the preseason. I could go on. The next 2 guys are at 20.3 and 20.1. 8 guys played between 18.3 and 20.3 minutes. Moving on. We can look the year before. The year before we saw 6 games. Number 1 was Troy Michaels at 25.4. Number 2 was JaMychal Green at 23.7. Number 3 was TJ Stevens at 23.5. Marc Gasol played all 6 games in that preseason. He averaged 18.8 minutes. So either way, yeah, I'm not likely to pay up for a lot of starters minutes here. But again, Mitchell Robinson, I'm pretty excited about 20 minutes of Mitchell Robinson at the price I expect to get for him. I'm not very excited about 20 minutes of Kevin Knox at the, well, maybe Kevin Knox. They might keep his price down, depends how much they react to necessarily the Summer League, but yeah, Tim Hardaway Jr., I don't really want to do that. Cantor, probably not going to be priced well, but again, everything is based on pricing. We'll look as we get a little bit closer there. But yeah, bench guys, cheap guys, Mitch, Kevin Knox maybe. All right, sure. We'll move on to the next team here. Let's talk about your Toronto Raptors. Last year's record 59-23. They beat the Wizards pretty convincingly in 6 games and got swept in 4 games by the Cleveland LeBrons in what I like to call Exhibit 117-A of why LeBron is the greatest basketball player ever, because that was a really good team. Pretty good on defense. Extremely good on offense. They added more 3-pointers to their... didn't matter. They just got Braun right in the Bickerstaff. So that happened. Projected Vegas record this year, last shop I checked, and again, this is going to vary a little bit, 55-27. So they're saying that they're going to regress 4 games this year. I like an over bet there. We'll get into why. They kept OG Anunoby, whose full first name I saw previously today, and it's like Ogu Gaga or something. It's very peculiar. Serge Ibaka, Kyle Lowry, CJ Kilometers, Norman Powell, Pascal Siakam, Jonas Valanciunas, Fred VanVleet, Delon Wright, and a couple guys that don't seem terribly relevant here, talking about Malachi Richardson and Lorenzo Brown, who aren't going to get time. New additions of relevance. A lot of these guys on training deals with Kyle Collinsworth and Kay Felder, but guys we're going to talk about who are relevant for this lineup would be Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard, of course, in from the Spurs, and Greg Monroe in from Boston. Departures, DeMar DeRozan, of course, and Jakob Poeltl in that trade. Really the relevant guys. They lost Alfonso McKinney, Malcolm Miller, who was also hurt, I believe, and Lucas Nogueira is back in Spain, which I just alluded to a few minutes ago. Agugua, I'm guessing is how that would be pronounced. OG Anunoby. Aguga, everyone's now throwing it at me. Yeah, I've never heard it. I've only heard OG Anunoby a million times, but I've never phonetically, so I don't want to maul the guy's name, although I've already. Raptors to the finals is the best bet out there. I mean, they're pretty clearly to me better than Philly, and pretty clearly to me better than the Celtics. So I don't know what Raptors to the finals is paying, but if it's anywhere around like even 3-1, I'm pretty excited about that bet. So yeah, coach, another rookie coacher alongside Fizzy Lifting Drink. There we have Nick Nurse, who first year anywhere as a head coach, but he was on Dwayne Casey's staff since I want to say 2013-2014 season. So this is his 6th year in Toronto. And he is credited frequently as the primary architect of sort of modernizing that offense last year, letting it depend a little more on 3-point shots. More of an offensive coach there. So expected starters for this team. Lowry's going to start. Leonard's going to start. Those are 100%. Valanciunas is going to start. That's 98%. I can think of a couple weird scenarios in which JV doesn't start, but he and Nurse are actually simpatico, and Valanciunas quite possibly a guy who makes a big leap forward this year because Dwayne Casey really used him frenetically. He had a lot of 16, 17, like he averaged 22 or 23 minutes, which is not a lot for a guy with his talent last year. And a lot of that was 16, 17, 28, 29, and it was obviously also a pain in the ass for DFS. But having Jakob Poeltl out of there, Greg Monroe is a less good backup and less of a pivot off Valanciunas. Like playing Poeltl or Pascal or Ibaka at the 5 gave you different looks. Greg Monroe, in some ways, is just a worse Jonas Valanciunas. So you can make, if you understand what I'm saying, there's some arguments there for all this will lead to him having some more time. At least in theory, that could work out. But anyhow, you're going to get Kyle Lowry, Kawhi Leonard, almost certainly Jonas Valanciunas, and then OG Anunoby and Serge Ibaka, or OG Anunoby and Danny Green, or Pascal and Danny Green, or Green and Ibaka, or Green and Pascal. This team is very, very, very deep. And Nick Nurse said during Media Day that he was going to run, quote, 10 to 12 guys a game. And yeah, there's 12 guys I kind of would expect to see time. maybe 11. Greg Monroe would be the 12th guy. If I was going to play, you'd want to play Lowry. I'll go top to bottom. Lowry, DeLon Wright, Fred VanVleet, Danny Green, C.J. Miles, Kawhi Leonard, OG Anunoby, Norm Powell, Serge Ibaka, Pascal, Valanciunas. That's 11. Greg Monroe would make 12. So this team's going to run pretty deep. That's also only 4 like true bigs. Again, you're going to get a lot of stretch fours with this team. You're going to get a lot of running small. So I'm not super worried about that. But that's only 4 bigs really there. So there's 8 guys playing the 1 through 3 in that list. Do you think they keep Green and Serge in the starting lineup? Close with Lowry, Green, Leonard, OG, insert best defensive center. That'd be. Some people would say Serge Ibaka. I actually think Pascal is the best guy to finish out that lineup. They can put out some fierce defensive lineups. That one that you and I were just talking about there. Lowry, Danny Green, Kawhi Leonard, OG Anunoby, and Pascal. It's a pretty sick defensive 5-man. Like, it's well above average. It's not Jazz level, but that team would have a pretty sick defensive rating. But yeah, all these things are going to happen. I think they're going to change this around a lot. The coach's comments during media day did nothing to dissuade me from this. So there's going to be some uncertainty here, certainly. And when we talk about Valanciunas, besides the fact that you know, they lost one of the good sort of pivot plays from him when you took Jakob Poeltl and sent him to San Antonio, there's also the fact that his defensive inequities are going to be much less of a hindrance with that other team on the court, which has a couple guys who aren't that offensive. So that's a when you have such good perimeter defenders, if you start that lineup with Lowry, Green, Leonard, and OG, sure, you can finish it with Pascal, which is a sick defensive unit, but it also really protects Jonas if you want to leave him out there. And with that team, he would be really productive because both Danny Green and OG Anunoby are not super effective offensive players. So there's a lot of ways this team is going to be built during the pre and the regular season. Could talk about it for another half hour. That's probably enough for right now. I do think Pascal is on the rise and Serge is in decline. I think Pascal's minutes go up and Serge's come down this year for guys we're talking about. As far as injuries go, I think this entire team is healthy. With obviously there's some lingering concern whether or not, you know, Kawhi Leonard is 1,000%. It just sort of snuck up on us. And again, tendonitis isn't a violent injury with, you know, one causal source. So who knows when that flares up or exactly how that goes. It's got to do with how the nerves are intertwined with and wrapped around the muscle. And it's a very sort of complicated thing that I frankly fully don't understand. But he's apparently 1,000% right now. And he's, you know, whatever, I don't know how old Kawhi is. He's 26 or 27. So there's really no reason to think that beyond that he shouldn't have a great year. Certainly day to day. Hopefully he'll be dependable. Minutes last year. Again, first year for Nick. Dwayne Casey was the head coach at that time, of course. But again, they were about an average team. Their top 4 last year were Powell, Lowry, DeLon Wright, and DeMar DeRozan, all 23 to 24.5. So a touch under average. Ibaka and Valanciunas got 20 and some change. Year before was a hair worse. Lowry was on top again with 23.7. They had 8 guys with 19 to 21 minutes. Yeah, that's obviously pretty ugly, but again, who knows exactly how Nick is going to mess with that, but I can't imagine it's going to turn into an incredibly favorable preseason environment, because again, in the regular season, they're going to play 11 or 12 guys a day. In the preseason, it's going to be 16. So, yeah, great basketball team. Another team that we're going to have to pick our spots with. There are teams, and again, I posted a playlist earlier. I'll add this video to it, and you can go by team, by division, and talk about all of them. There's just teams in a vacuum we should be a little more excited about. This, again, is another one that is really going to spread the time out pretty significantly. So, saving the best for last, the Boston Celtics. Last year's record, 55-27. They beat the Bucks in a really good opening round series that went 7 games. They handled the 76ers pretty easily in 5 games and then lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to that man. And the Cavaliers again in 7 games. Projected record, most of the Vegas shops, 58 or 59 wins, 23 or 24 losses. I think I kind of like the over there too. Not as much as I like the over in Toronto. Like, if that's still sitting at 55 games, the team didn't get any worse. I mean, I don't talk about sports betting a lot because it isn't my, like, so take all my advice with a grain of salt. You know, you can argue the coach is worse. I'm not sure I buy that. Dwayne Casey is an above-average coach and just one Coach of the Year before being fired. One of the 2 Coach of the Year awards, but one Coach of the Year. And so, okay, I think you can argue that that's costing you a little bit, but they're projecting they lose 4 games, and LeBron moved out of the division, and there's a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference that are just going to be handing it over. Like, they get 4 games against the Nets. Okay, that's probably 3 or 4 wins. They get 4 games against the Knicks. They get 3 or 4 games against the Hawks. They get, like, Eastern Conference has a lot of teams that are just going to be bending over and taking it this year. And again, they basically replaced DeMar DeRozan with Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green. So I don't know. It seems odd to me that they're supposed to fall back 4 games. Like, I would have predicted them somewhere around 58, 59. It depends if Kawhi gets on any BS. Yeah, if Kawhi plays as good as he was the year before last and plays 70 games, I think this team is a monster and has a decent chance of getting to the Celtics, but if not, getting a lot of games. The Celtics, again, last year, 55 wins. This year, 59 tends to be the number in the shops, which is easily a number I think that the Raptors will exceed if they get there. But yeah, this is a pretty sick Celtics team. Carryovers from last year, Aaron Baines, Jabari Bird. He is the one who got arrested for assault or something. Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, Gordon Bayward, Al Horford, Kyrie Irving, Marcus Morris, Semi Ojeleye, Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Daniel Tice, and Gershon Yabusele, which is just a great name. Didn't turn over a lot. And when you make it and almost win the Eastern Conference Finals, and then add 2 All-Stars to your team, you really don't need to do a lot over the summer, so I would not be that disappointed. Hot take, Kyrie is overrated. I don't think that's a hot take. I think Kyrie is overrated. He certainly was in his time in Cleveland because he was a real defensive liability and made mistakes above the neck fairly constantly. And again, the guy is not convinced that the earth is round. He occasionally plays basketball like someone who isn't convinced the earth is round. So he's a brilliant basketball player to watch. He's an offensive force, and his defense got a lot better in Boston. He was not that much of a liability. Still, it depends if you're talking fantasy or real-life credit for the team, but I don't think saying Kyrie is overrated is really that hot of a take. He's very, very good. If I'm drafting a team to play 1 game in the NBA, he's like my point guard 4 and my player 22, and I think generally people would take him over that. So I do think he's a little bit overrated, but he's an incredibly good hot take. Gordon Hayward makes the team worse. No. Like, Gordon Hayward is sort of taking Marcus Morris's minutes. So, no. Like, if Marcus Morris wasn't the guy getting all the time at the 4, and they'll basically move Tatum down to the 4 and let Hayward play the 3 or whatever, you'd sort of have an argument there, but no, Gordon Hayward can't make this team. Gordon Hayward's really good. We're going to see how that ankle turns around. So that's a poor choice of a phrase. Speaking of his ankle turning around, one of my favorite videos in the history of the NBA is Gordon Hayward's gruesome ankle injury. Not because of so much anything he does, but because of what the Cavaliers bench does. This is a bunch of tough, grown-ass men. I mean, tough, grown-ass men. And so Gordon Hayward gets out on the wing right in front of the Cavs bench and cuts down and jumps higher than I will ever jump. And lands wrong and basically turns his ankle around so it's facing the wrong way on his foot, and it's a grotesque injury. And he literally forces the Cavs to run to the fucking locker room. Like, it was that gross that these grown-ass men, there's like, 8 men on the bench, and 2 of them are just like, oh god, no, and just hide themselves, and then literally the rest of the team runs. 6 or 7 guys get up and run to the tunnel. They're just jetting the fuck out of there, like, oh god, I never want to see it again. Like, grown-ass men, terrified by whatever his ankle did. It's worth watching just for that. Like, watching him, he's obviously in shock. Like, he doesn't even, like, do much. He just, like, scoots around and, like, look, my leg is, it's an L. Like, he's not, but, they run to the, if you haven't seen that video, watch Gordon Hayward ankle injury and watch the Cavs bench behind him. It's the greatest thing, watching these guys just tear ass, like, run 50 feet, like, I must be away from it. Kyrie got the best handles, but he holds onto the ball too long and the offense stomps. Not so much during the time we saw last year. Like, is he the best guy at initiating and optimizing a fluid offense? No. He's very good at breakdowns and can turn into DeRozan on a bad day. But, no, he's still well above average for that. Bayward beautifies the team. Celia points out he's a very attractive man. I got to grow my hair back up for Celia there. Giannis working out with Kobe. Rest in peace, the East. Giannis, one big, scary... Like, Giannis learns how to shoot. You can just hang him up. Like, if Giannis... You know, Giannis is Kevin Durant gassed up, except for the fact that Durant is a deadly fucking shooter. And if Giannis, like, picked up the ability to shoot 80% as well as Kevin Durant... Dear Lord. Oh my God, Gordon Hayward just broke his leg. Kevin Harlan. Yep, that's exactly what he said. I haven't seen it recently, but I clearly remember the clip. But again, for me, I just remember watching it again and watching the cat. Grown ass. Like, I've seen some... I had a compound fracture in my left leg. The bone came out. It might have been arguably worse than Gordon Hayward's. Mine was middle of the calf, so I'm talking about my tibia actually doing one of these. His just dislocated, but it's at a joint, so that's better in some ways. I did much closer to the Paul George injury. But, you know, these are grown-ass men who have seen stuff like that before, and they're all praying and calling for the Holy Ghost to make the bad man go away. Like, it was some incredibly scary shit, but that's a great video if you haven't seen it. What does the government, or whoever is hiding the fact that the earth is flat, get out of the... I'm not... Oh, God, I could talk about flat earthism for a while. Flat earthism is one of the most amazing things because it's hard to understand how... Like, you can make some Trump analogies and blah, 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 blah. But it's hard to understand how people can convince themselves of something that there's no reason to believe is true. Like, I mean, if you think Donald Trump is lying about something, and even his most ardent supporters should recognize he is, you can understand how someone would be fooled by it because you can live in a bubble, and Fox News said this and this and that and the other thing happened. Like, I understand how that happens. I don't understand how you believe the earth is flat. Like, it is disprovable by common observation, common sense, celestial observation. Like, without, you know, advanced instrumentation or computers, it was fairly obvious the earth was round. Many thousands of years ago, we had a decent idea of the size of the earth. Like, people are like, Columbus thought the earth was flat. No, he didn't. Columbus knew the earth was round. Everyone knew the earth was round. The only reason Columbus knew that his ass could go west to get around to the far east, the whole reason Indians are called Indians, because he thought he was in the West Indies, you know, like Sri Lanka, the fuck over there. So no, I think it was Archimedes? Aristophanes? I think it's Aristophanes. I don't know. Somebody figured out the size of the earth a long time ago because there was a, there were a couple wells that were the same depth, and they knew the exact distance between them, and they knew that at a certain day of the year, directly overhead this well at noon, the sun shone straight down it, and they figured out that if you went to this other well and knew the exact distance between them, and it was X number of stadia or whatever number of units it was back then, and the sun would go down, and it would shine a certain distance down the side because it wasn't going to be right above. It's right above well number 1 over here. Some way to do a shout out for Drew Dinkmeyer and his welly water thing here because I'm talking about wells. But it's directly over this one, and it wasn't directly over this one, so the light would come in at an angle. And by determining the difference between those two angles, if you knew the distance between the two wells, you could determine the circumference of the earth. And they did, pretty closely. You know, a long time ago. So, you gotta be all kinds of stupid and not interested in learning to, like, think past the age of 8 the earth is round. Like, it should be a 2-minute Google search. Like, you should literally Google ways we know the earth isn't flat. And it's going to spit up 600 things, several of which you can figure out without any... Anyway, we're moving on. Somehow we got out to... Antarctica probably has the best beaches. That seems like it's out of nowhere. Worst... Oh, God. It's a good thing only like a couple hundred people watch this, because if there were 500 of you, the comments would be coming faster. And I, as you may have noticed, like getting off on a tangent, and I enjoy being a pontificating teacher-like douche. So you bring up stuff like flat earthism, and you get me to go off for 5 minutes. Had to watch the video again, and yeah, everyone just started convulsing and closing their eyes. Just watching the Cavs bench is hilarious in that. Kevin Ware's bone coming out of tendon. No, that was worse than what I had. I just had a bone barely come through the surface. I still have a nice scar, though. Did you miss the Rockets breakdown yet? Yes, Rockets are the Southwest Division, which is already on the Osmo webpage. But we did that one already. Dislocated your kneecap playing ball, made a guy puke. Yeah, earlier last year I dislocated this pinky. You can see there's still some swelling. This is the messed up one. You can see there's still a hump there. And I took a basketball coming really fast. Someone whipped a basketball at me, and I went to catch it, and it hit the end of the pinky, and so it stacked up. So this got right on top of this. So broof was up here, and like this. And like I was like, ah! And nobody actually puked, but I got to be badass, and then I went and got some duct tape from the supply closet, wrapped them up, finished the game. So that was pretty exciting. I had 2 really bad hand injuries in a month. That one healed up pretty good. Snapped it back out, got to be badass. This one, I had my thumb destroyed, and it never got fixed. So this is still really messed up and busted. Anyhow, who cares about me? Probably no one. So, Pelicans were better without Cousins. We've been there. Why are you so quick to assume the Celtics will be better with Hayward? Because you're taking Marcus Morris off the court and adding Gordon Hayward. It is really what you're doing. So, there's nothing Marcus Morris is better at than Gordon Hayward. Like, it would be really still, like, I understand your point, but taking DeMarcus Cousins out of there radically changed the nature of the team. This is just replacing Marcus Morris with a strictly better player. So, like, I take your point, but I can describe to you, and I have a feeling you can describe to me, the ways in which basically turning DeMarcus Cousins into Nikola Mirotic made the team a lot better. And it did. It played more to the strengths of their players. It just did. You would have to give me a theory as to how taking out Marcus Morris and putting in Gordon Hayward didn't make the team better. Well, what do I think of the evolution of the NBA lineup construction is going, such as MLB and NFL had started going towards stacking teams, trying to get the highest upside? Long story short, it's a viable strategy in NBA. It is probably a little less than both of those sports, but because just the correlations aren't quite as high. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's always inherently better to stack games on smaller slates. What about before Mirotic got there? Yeah, they were. I mean, it brought out the strengths of players they already had on the roster, from Rondo to at a better pace, to Etuan Moore is better in that kind of lineup, to letting Anthony Davis play the 5 instead of the 4, which, like, it radically changed the way the team was playing. If your argument to make the same point for the Celtics, you'd have to be saying that, you know, Jason Tatum playing down low more and playing some more down sort of towards the 4 is better for the team for this reason. I'm not going to say you're 100% wrong. There are things that you could say to me like, this is better than this, and I'd be like, no, I'm sure you're wrong. I suspect you're wrong. I would give, you know, if we played 1,000 games with this lineup and then 1,000 games with this lineup just with Gordon Hayward out, I would give 9-1, 10-1 odds that the Hayward team would be better. But it's not impossible to me that I'm missing some sort of analysis, or those players moving to different positions disadvantages them, that I don't, you know, you can spin Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, who are ascending players, get somewhat disinterested because their number isn't called as much. Like, I don't think it's impossible that you're correct, but my gut instinct would be to disagree with you. But I enjoy the conversation. You'll take the under on whatever the Celtics win prop is in Vegas. It's around 59. Again, I think the Toronto one is way off. I would have picked 59 or 60, I think, for the Celtics. Running a 2K sim on this right now, give me 15. Okay, have a good time. Again, 2K does not take into account lots of things I was talking about, but excellent. All right, let's get in here and talk a little more about the Celtics. Yeah, I talked about the guys they're keeping around. Again, not a lot of... this team picked up 4 guys. They were Robert Williams, Brad Wanamaker, Walt Lemon Jr., and P.J. Dozier. They really didn't need to add anyone. Brad Stevens, going into his sixth year as head coach of the Celtics, who, by the way, is 1 month older than me, and the guy has been coaching the Boston Celtics for 6 years. How many teams do I think could win the finals? Could, my answer has to be 30. Have a greater than 2% chance of winning the finals? I imagine I'd come in around Like it depends what you mean by win the finals, but like have a greater than 1 or 2% chance of actually, you know, playing through the year and winning the finals as the league's teams and divisions are currently constituted. Probably 5 teams from the East and 3 or so from the West. I'm guessing around 8 teams. Like if someone called you and said, I bet X to win the finals, you wouldn't say they're crazy. Yeah, again, the odds make that funny. Like if you bet on the Orlando Magic to win the finals, you get 1,200 to 1 or something. So I don't think that's crazy. But I understand what you're saying. But if you just said, you know, that they have greater, I'll go with my greater than 1% definition. I have a feeling you're around 8 or 9. 2 teams, Warriors or Raptors, barring any injuries. Yes. Well, also the Celtics and the Rockets wouldn't shock me, and the 76ers I would give greater than 1%. 2% would be getting interesting, but I'd give them 1%. The Bucks I would probably give 1%. So it's actually much easier for teams in the East to get there, because no matter who you are in the West, you basically are going to have to beat the Warriors in a series. That's a tall order for every team but a couple. But I imagine I have about 7 teams on that list. Jokes, the new 2K is awful. Really? That sucks. Hear people say 3, and that's just delusional. Thunder, you're saying? Interesting. I'll give Thunder 1% probably. I think they could probably get there, but they're close to the line. You know, if you start talking to me about, you know, other teams in the East, you know, finding their way through that, you know, people say stuff like, you know, the Pacers, the Heat with Jimmy Butler. You know what I'm saying? Like Rockets, Warriors, and Celtics. Well, you can't say that. If someone says 3 teams have a chance to win and they're the Rockets, Warriors, and the Celtics, that's completely asinine, because you're suggesting, like, what are the odds the Celtics win the East? I would say they're somewhere around 30%. Maybe 40%. But that's the highest the odds they have of winning the East. So there's like a majority chance that a team not named the Celtics comes out of the East. And, you know, so no team that comes out of that has, like, even if you gave them a 5% chance of winning the Rockets in the you know, beating the Rockets or the Warriors in the finals, they'd still be, like I said, that just doesn't make any sense. Jimmy Butler. Yeah, Jimmy Butler. We're going to get Jimmy Butler news maybe during the show. Like, that shit is going to come up very, very soon. The Jazz have an absolute chance. The Lakers, I can't see it. I love this Lakers team. I really, really do. But barring, like, trade shenanigans where they pick up Jimmy Butler somehow or does some other big piece happens, I can't see LeBron getting there. I mean, it's much worse than the Cavs team he beat them with. And this is probably going to be a better Warriors team. Like, I just can't see that happening. Like, the Heat with Jimmy Butler, yeah, that's interesting. The Jazz, this Jazz team is going to be one of the best defensive teams in the history of the NBA, especially in this modern era. Cat contract extension with Shade. He said it was coincidental timing. I absolutely don't believe that. So, yeah, I'm with you. Lakers second round exit max. I think they lose in the first round. I think the Lakers are the 7 seed and they lose in the first round of the Houston Rockets. That's where I have them right now. You think the Lakers could beat the Rockets? I agree. I don't think that's likely. But you give me this Rockets team and this Lakers team, I give the Lakers 12% taking this series. Somewhere in there. 10, 15. Not 0. Okay, I'm glad we're violently agreeing with each other. I love a conversation like that. No, you're right. No, you're right. Okay. Yeah, so expected starters for this team again. Irving, Brown, Hayward, Tatum, and Horford. That's 5 very good basketball players. Hashtag analysis. So injuries entering the year. Nothing really current. No one's really kind of beat up. You know, obviously Kyrie has an extensive injury history, but says he feels great, and they fished all the shit out of his legs, and the infection is cleared up there. So, you know, God willing, I hope he stays healthy. I'm tired of the Grant Hills and Ken Griffey Jr.'s of the world making me sad. You know, Gordon Hayward again got hurt so bad he forced grown men to run in terror. How many wins did the Spurs lose with minus Kawhi and plus DeRozan? I mean, it depends what sort of Kawhi, but we'll say peak Kawhi and peak DeRozan. There's a couple win difference between those players. Like 4 wins making that trade, something like that. be interesting. You could figure it out with like WAR, basically. You could actually compute that reasonably well. The Lakers were extremely competitive with Warriors and Rockets in regular season last year. I think they went to OT with them 3 or 4 times combined. That's true. They and the year before, actually. I believe in the Rockets 73-9 season, which would be yet another year before. They lost once to the Lakers and were close another time too. Like, they had trouble with the Lakers and the Timberwolves and a couple really interesting teams you wouldn't think they would. Kawhi didn't play that much last year. Kawhi played, I don't even know what the number is, like 12 years. I'm talking about going back a couple. 12 games, rather. Sixers. Wait, the news hit? Tyreek, is that Sixers trade Dario, Bayless, and a first-round pick? Is this actual news? No, I gotta go to Twitter. Tyreek, you're screwing up my show. By the way, we were giving some Philadelphia love there. You actually, like... Oh, I'll just search Twitter for, I don't know, Adrian Wojnarowski. There's nothing. You're screwing with me here. Let me search for Jimmy Butler. I got nothing. Okay. I thought you were saying it was real. He screwed me. All right, so what did you suggest? This is just a hypothetical. Sixers trade Dario. Fine. Bayless. And a first-round pick for Jimmy. It's going to be a pretty shitty first-round pick, too. Suns get Jang and Teague. Minnesota gets Dario, Ryan Anderson, and Bayless. There we go. No. I mean, don't get me wrong. Dario's a good piece for them. They let Tyus Jones run the point there. Dario's a pretty clear upgrade to Taj Gibson and Gorgie Jang, etc. Who you're sending out of town there, but interesting. That's like really not a bad trade. That actually does sort of what everyone wants. Like I sort of mocked it at first glance, and I do think Minnesota can get a better offer than that. But the Suns do want Teague too. They want any point guard, frankly, at this point. See our Southwest Division preview, but yeah, they desperately want a point guard. You keep on salivating over the potential of the Jazz defense. What about the Raptors defense? The Raptors defense, again, with certain lineups, is going to be amazing, and it's not in the same ballpark. 9 games for Kawhi. Lakers now have 6 players who are still on that team that competed. Yes, they do. Yeah, the Lakers kept 6 players from last year. We were talking about that. No. That's a trade scenario. They can't trade Ryan Anderson until December. That would be a problem. Dario is just Bielitsa with heavy minutes. Dario is better than Bielitsa, but they're similar in a lot of ways. That's not a decent trade. Lakers were plus 500 to sign LeBron in May last year. That was egregious. That was a good bet if you could get in on that one. Let's get back to the Celtics. Y'all took me across the country there. Let's see. I have a note here about make sure to mention the grown-ass men running from an injury. We already did that a couple times so far. Let's have a friendly bet based on who had the better defensive rating at the end of the year. I don't want to take your money like that, Ozzy. You don't have a shot, my friend. I guess you're in the better conference for it. Your conference runs a little slower, but I really like this Raptors team. You're going to have Valanciunas out there for a good period of time. They're going to play CJ Kilometers, who is an abortion on defense. The Jazz basically don't have a player who's going to get minutes on that roster who isn't an above-average defender, and they have like 4 who are exceptional ones. I think they'll maul them, but like send me a tweet and I'll lock it up and let's make it a gentleman's bet. But yeah, it wouldn't shock me if Toronto was 2nd or 3rd in the league. So anyhow, talking about the Celtics a little bit more here. The whole team outside of Kyrie and Bayward are going to regress, probably, in my opinion. Horford, Brown, Tatum, Rozier, Morris, Baines. Everyone's got to go down. Simply because these 2 other guys are going to command a shit ton of usage. And a lot of people's minutes are going to come down as well. Maybe someone else improves. Tatum or Brown. Both are young and they're 1 year, they're a year older. They're still getting better. Almost everyone on the team should be more efficient. Their spacing and their pace should both be excellent. Adding 2 all-stars to the lineup is going to increase everybody's efficiency. But I still think everyone is probably going to regress. And for DFS, the relevance of this conversation, and we're about to look at a DFS slate using the Celtics, everyone is probably going to start overpriced for the Celtics relative to some of the other guys. Like, most of the team, outside of Irving and Hayward, were kind of priced in a vacuum, are going to start overpriced. And before we get to to our 1 game slate here, this is all kind of moot because Brad is yet another preseason coach from this division who does not care about your preseason DFS team. Last year, they had only 4 preseason games. Tatum led the way with 25.1 minutes. He was the only one to get 24. Kyrie, 23.8. Gordo, 23.2. Jaylen Brown, 21.3 in 4th place. Tatum led last year as their hot rookie. The year before that, the leader was Jaylen Brown, who led with, I shit you not, 23.3. Second was Avery Bradley at 21.3. Third was Marcus Smart at 20.4, and I shit you not, the next highest was 17.9. No one got 24, and 3 guys on the team exceeded 18 minutes a game. That's fucking hard to do. Like, that's like, you need no one to get injured, and you really got to spread that shit out pretty evenly. Yeah. So let's look at the showdown slate, but, you know, last year wasn't quite as egregious, and, you know, this is a team, they're not going to be as deep as the Raptors. They're going to run 10 both days. You're going to have Kyrie with Rozier behind him, sort of Jaylen Brown with Marcus Smart behind him, Hayward with Ojale still be in the rotation behind him, Tatum with Morris behind him, and Al Horford with Aaron Baines behind him, kind of. I don't think Daniel Tice is a regular part of the rotation. Bob Williams won't get his start going this year. But let's go ahead and look at that one-game slate and then peel off for the day. So hold on, let me try to find my way to the Kings of the Draft and take a look at what we got here. I opened up. All right, there it is. So yeah, I will say some guys you should immediately have interest in. I would probably be making about a dozen teams before I didn't put Guillermo Hernan Gomez into one of them. 5,800 for his floor price. He's going to get 20, 22, 24 minutes. Wouldn't shock me if he started this year. I don't hate Cody Zeller either. Those 2 guys are going to be the 2 guys really competing for the starting position. I'd be shocked if Biyombo started. So I expect those guys both to see in the 20-minute range, and at their prices, they're both to the hell cheap. I imagine my lineup would probably be like 2 Celtics and 4 Charlotte guys if I was building it from the beginning. Any Narrative Street stuff with the game being played at the Dean Smith Center? Not beyond the obvious. You see what Malik Monk said about the Hornets scrimmages? I did. I can't remember what it was. I recall reading Malik Monk scrimmages, so help me out. Remind me of what that is. March 25th, 2019, Fantasy Labs NBA. What the hell am I looking at here? Okay, we're going to back up here. Amen on the Jazz D. Jazz pace should be slower than the Raps, I think. I agree. Quite a bit slower than the Raptors. Defensive rating accounts for pace in terms of possession, but the slower pace, the easier it is to get set up. That's right. It's a defensive rating is a ranking of points per 100 possessions of the opponent, I believe. You got Mitchell, O'Neal, Gobert, Rubio on the Jazz. On the Raptors, you have Green, Kawhi, OG, Siakam. Those players are on those teams. I cannot argue that point. March 25th, 2019, Fantasy Labs NBA. Brad Stevens said it's 50-50, if not sort of likely, to rest Kyrie Irving and Jason Tatum. Then Hayward and Rozier sit. I don't know what you're saying to me here, Andy. The Celtics are, again, a team that's solid in real life, but always overvalued and over... Right, that's the thing. Everyone's going to... So, again, talking about the slate here, you know, Charlotte is one of the most inconspicuous teams in the league. Boston is one of the most well-known. And again, everyone on Boston is going to be overpriced. So you're paying more and the ownership isn't there, and like I'd be pretty heavily on Charlotte here. And I just also think they're better values. Like I would like place an even money bet with someone right now that the winning lineup and everything for this has at least 4 guys from Charlotte. Let's see. Ricky Geiger, quick being a buster, you are wrong. Jazz D will once again be legit. I believe so. Dookies / Tar Heels. It's not being played in the Spectrum. Kyrie going to ball out if it's at UNC. Talking ish about the Tar Heels. Yeah, they frequently... Rupp Arena. They frequently move these preseason games around. I did not look exactly at where it was taking place. I know it's a home game for Charlotte, but I didn't check to see specifically where. They've been playing with a 12-second shot clock in anticipation of the fast pace their coach wants to play. That's right. James Borrego, late of the Spurs, of the great Popovich family tree. Is definitely going to try to keep the pace up. Malik Monk, I think, ends up getting the start at the 2 there. They're going to have Batum, again, I haven't looked a lot at the Hornets because they're on the show tomorrow, so I'll spend a lot of time tomorrow getting all that ready. But Batum is supposed to move back to spending his time at the 3. But yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting. I'm saying that what Stevens will do. Did you hear my voice crack there? Getting old. Oh, I understand. Where's Borrego coming from? He's an assistant coach for the Spurs for the last few years. I'm not saying their defense is bad, but inherently if you take the same exact roster and play at a fast pace and then play at a slow pace, the slower paced team will have a better defensive ratings. I agree with your presupposition. While defensive rating is adjusted for pace, so it's not just that teams that play slow have a better adjusted rating, I do think that that pace is a dependent variable in that way when it comes to... I'm sorry, pace would be the independent variable, and you would end up with having defensive rating being a dependent variable based on that, which is a long way around of saying, yeah, if you give me 5 minutes to set up defense, and then we take a 5-minute break, and then 5 minutes to set up defense, as opposed to sprinting up and down the fucking floor, I think less points are scored per possession in the 5-minute setup. Wait, is Monk starting? What's the projected starting 5? Where did MKG and Marvin the Martian go? MKG and Marvin the Martian are going to basically split the 4. Again, if I'm remembering this right. Don't get on me too much if I'm not. This isn't the division I'm looking at today, but they're gonna run smaller, and MKG's going to get more time at the 4 along with Marvin. Yeah, they're going to start someone else at shooting garbage. It's going to be Jeremy Lamb, I think, actually, not Malik Monk. So I think Jeremy Lamb will probably get KG and Hernan Gomez, something like that. Lamb starting Batum to small forward. There it is. I didn't think that had been specifically said per se. Maybe it has been. Again, I haven't reviewed my Hornets notes specifically today because I do, 4 or 5 hours on the division I'm actually doing. The Hornets should just play their summer league team for 3 years. They'd be good down the road. Yeah. Lamb starting. There are 2 people said Lamb starting. Okay, maybe when Tony Parker is available in free agency, you just have to pull the trigger. Still my favorite trivia question ever was the year who led the NBA in points in the paint last year, and it was Tony Parker. Yeah, that was a good one. No one ever got that one. I made $20 many times. Monk was a full participant in Tuesday's practice. Pelvis, yes, he has a bruised pelvis. I get a bruised pelvis sometimes. That's when, you're grinding a little hard there. It can get really tender. You go back, you try to bang again the next day, and it's like, ooh, why does this hurt? Bruised pelvis. They're the definition of what Hinkie doesn't want to be. I like that. I like that. Rocky, weren't you the one who said Raptors D would be better than Jazz? If not, you guys are just having a good time with each other. Get a room. Okay. So yeah. So looking at this slate again, let me clear the lineup I built here. But I built the lineup in about 10 seconds. I really like. So looking at the utility prices. Yeah, I'm pretty sure my lineup is gonna have Hayward, Lamb, Hernan Gomez, Zeller, maybe Bridges, depending on what they say about a time projection for him. Probably Kyrie is the captain because the rest of that is running a little cheap. But yeah, that's gonna be good. Thoughts about Elton Brand in The Office? I don't know much about him from other than him being a suspect basketball player. Appears to have the support of both the players in the front office, and being well liked is half the job there. Like, I can't tell you how many incredibly intelligent and effective executives I know who just never achieve because they're assholes. And it's a lot easier to do your job. When you do shit that's well, people are more likely to congratulate you. They're more likely to chop you on the shoulder. They're more likely to be like, hey, I work with this guy. This guy's fucking great. And when you fuck up, they're more likely to be like, he's a nice guy. He just made a mistake. He'll get it right next time. When you're a dick, yeah, it makes everything harder. So apparently he's a very genial, affable fellow, and everyone seems happy for him upstairs and downstairs, as the British like to say. So, yeah, more power to him. Me and the wife both had questionable tags on the same day. The family team must play on. I salute you. Do I think Jimmy Butler wants to smash D-Wade's wife? I mean, on a visceral level, I kind of want to smash D-Wade's wife. But do I think he would? I don't know. I wouldn't. I'm married and would try not to sleep with any other man's wife. But yes, I think he looked at her and got a semi. I think that's about what happened there. Yeah. So you're banned from playing, but still have an account. I don't. I'm not on my account. Just being honest. I have a friend who frequently, who basically watches every show and enters optimals when I have them and tends to put on stuff so that if I want to look at ownership and things, I can log on at the end of the show or look at something. So I'm there. I can try to log in as me and try to enter a contest. I believe if I tried to enter a cash contest, I would get your account has been restricted because there was communication between my day job and DraftKings, and they said, hey, you can't do that anymore. I don't even remember my login. It's been a while. But I don't know. I might be able to join a free contest, but I don't know. But I am looking at a friend's account. Guess you don't have Kemba's preseason playing time from years past. I know it's a new coach, but you know, I can do that for you. That'll just take me a minute. I will look at Charlotte years past. But again, this is going to be from the Clifford tree. Andy's a year older, and so these numbers are very slightly better than completely useless to me. But I do take requests. So let's look at Charlotte over the last couple of years in L preseason. 2014, 2015, Kemba Walker was, wow, they weren't fucking around in 2000. Like, you want to talk about a team you like? Here's the Charlotte Hornets before 2014, 2015. Lance Stevenson, 29.9 minutes a game. Second place, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, in 8 games, averaged 29.3. Third place, Al Jefferson, 7 games, 29 minutes a game. Fourth place, Marvin Williams, 6 games, 26.7 minutes a game. Fifth place, 6 games. Kemba Walker, 26.5 minutes per game. Huh? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not like I get literally fan mail about the preseason, and people send me money or donate to charity. Or like, oh, you're just the best. I'm really not. I just read a lot of stuff. Like, there's misunderstandings about the nature of intelligence in this universe. This is not anything terribly special. Like, I'd like to think I can also do the intelligence stuff and the hard basketball stuff, and that I watch a lot of tape and I can help there too. But preseason is really kind of easy mode for touting. You just got to put the time in. 2015, 2016, Kemba Walker, 5th place, 22.5 minutes. So they got off that plan pretty fucking quick. 2 years ago, my computer's lagging. Hopefully the stream is not lagging as I dig through my database to pick up this shit. Kemba Walker played 6 of the 7 games, 9th on the team in minutes at 20.5. And last year, in the Clifford regime, Malik Monk led the way last year, 28.3 in their 5 preseason games. Kemba Walker, 5th on the list, 23.5. So, yes, that was all the fuck over the place, and it's a new coach. So I consider that useless, but boy, if we could go back in time and play some DFS, I would bet on a lot of 2014, 2015 Charlotte. Yes, you don't have Kemba's preseason. Well, we just did that. Probably notable that this coach was very aggressive in the summer league and saying he needs his guys to play a lot because they needed to learn the system. Well, that was something we dealt with a number of teams last year and something we talked about in the preseason. So, I'll be paying close attention to this. And by 2 days from now, I'll have probably close to minutes projections for every team, and I'll be refining those game by game. He was consistent. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a similar mentality with the preseason. Yeah. And again, some of these coaches coached their summer league teams. Nick Nurse, who we spoke about earlier today, I believe coached the Raptors summer league team. There were several new coaches in the league this year, and I can't remember if James Borrego did. I really can't remember. I don't think he did. But Nick Nurse went to Vegas and coached the team in Vegas. Wait, don't tell you Hernan Gomez is their starting center. They haven't said yet, but it's going to be... Technically, it's going to be Hernan Gomez or Cody Zeller. Don't want to get my Zellers confused. Or Bismack Biyombo. Especially if they're saying, I want to do the offense in 12 seconds or less and putting that kind of focus on that sort of thing. I'd be shocked if it's Biyombo. So it's going to be Zeller or Hernan Gomez. I think it's going to be Hernan Gomez, but it's going to be him or Cody Zeller. Which Golden State Warriors star player leaves the team first? I'd probably put them in order at Clay, Draymond, Durant, Curry. I would say would be the order in which I think they'd be likely to leave. But I think you got a little while. But probably Clay, Draymond, Clay, Durant. Something like that. Clay seems the most likely. I mean, they're all saying I want to stay for life. And again, if you win 3 titles in 4 years and have the best team in history, yeah, that would seem like the smart thing to say. So you can't really know based on what they say, but that's where I'd go in it. So there we go, 12:30 again. By the way, 90 minutes, so thanks, you bastages. Trying to make a shorter video, make them a little less intimidating so people will watch them, but we screwed that all the hell up. So a couple more minutes for questions, and then I will get out of Dodge here. And we'll be back again tomorrow with the Southeast. Oh my God, that defense is going to be so bad if Hernangomez starts. You're correct. Like MKG, okay. Batum, okay, but yeah, some, Lamb, Kemba, Hernangomez. Yeah, you are not wrong. Hornets assistant coach technically coaches, but Borrego and 2 other assistants were also there the whole time with the team. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, so, we're certainly hoping they lean on these guys a little bit. I'm going to, be listening as much as I can. Feel free to... I'm a big fan of teams. Like, I don't play golf as much as I would like to because I don't enjoy individual sports as much as team sports. I love a 2-man best ball or a scramble, and I love bowling 2 versus 2 as opposed to bowling, and I love board games that are cooperative, and I'm just a big team guy. So if you want to be on my team... a few people this week have been really nice in sending me tweets like, I thought you might find this interesting. And thus far, I've known them all. But I love that shit. So if you have 5 seconds every time you see something that you think is useful for DFS and want to share it with the rest of the Fast Eddie team, send me that shit. And I will pass it along. You're a Knicks fan. Don't get me wrong. Hernangomez is a great fantasy commodity. But in terms of real life, man, yes, that's true. But again, Cody Zeller and Bismack Biyombo. So, All right. I'm going to call it a day at 12:31. I got to get to bed and get up at 6 in the morning or something and take a 3-hour lunch where I will read about the Mid-Atlantic States NBA team. So thank you again for coming as always. I will retweet the updated playlist with the 4 videos we've done so far. Less than 48 hours away, 43 hours away from sort of real NBA basketball. All of a sudden I'm starting to realize that I gotta work a second job now, like 190 of the next 200 days. So that's a little cowing, but it's gonna be fun. I can't wait to get there. Really hope, we're as profitable as we have been for the last few years. I will be providing content at awesemo.com. I have no idea what that is yet, but I'm gonna force someone to tell me by tomorrow, and then I'll pass that on to all you interested people. Yeah, thumbs up. Ho! Y'all take care now.